welcome to Power Talks. Now, GCC sustainability doesn't break down because of technology or cost. It breaks down because of leadership blind spots, the decisions leaders avoid, the conversations they delay, the habits they don't question. And today's discussion is about the leadership self-audits, not as a compliance exercise, but as a survival tool for long-term GCC relevance. Joining me are Dheeraj, Partner and Deputy Advisory Leader, PwC, and Ramkumar Narayanan, EVP, Head India Philippines at FIS. All right, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us for this conversation. And this conversation perhaps is going to be interesting because we are not only talking about sustainability, but also the role of leadership in it. So, starting with you, Dheeraj, when we talk about leadership self-audits, what do you think? What are those traits, that leaders are afraid to sort of uncover about themselves?
A good question. I think when we talk about self-audits, right, it's about auditing or checking yourself on performance against the goals set. But as leadership is a lot more about behavior, mindset, building a team, I think the leaders are more skeptical about a change in mindset that needed with change of technology and AI staring it in faces. As leaders, we are not used to cannibalizing our own work. We want to do more. We would not want to eat up what we are already doing. So I think a change of mindset for themselves and their leadership team, I think is the most critical aspect.
All right, thank you for sharing that with us and setting the context for this conversation. So, if we can come into the conversation, when we talk about at scale, what leadership behaviors you think quietly become the biggest risk for the long term GCC sustainability that we're talking about?
I think most leaders have to recognize that what brought them here. I mean, the very classic statement, right? What brought you here is not going to take you in the future. I think that, to me, if you get stuck in paradigms that you're used to, and which it seems to be the biggest danger that all of us face, we have to learn to reinvent ourselves for the new era that's coming up upon us. And if we measure our success and failures by yardsticks that we have used in the past, I think that will not serve us well as we look into the future. And I think, to me, that is the biggest danger as a leader that you have, is are we spending the time on kind of reinventing ourselves and rethinking how we should operate in the future?
All right, thank you for sharing that point and taking similar point across to you. Dheeraj, many leaders we know that believe control equals stability, right? But of course, there's a breaking point. Where does this break in the real life GCC environment scenario?
Oh, absolutely. See, the onset of GCCs happened for cost arbitrage. And in the initial days, they are used to doing what has been told to them. There's a mandate, there is a scope of work, there's a business case that's created saying these are the cost savings or this is the addition of talent that you are expected to do. So far, we are living in that remit, it's fine. But we've done so well that organizations are expecting so much more out of their GCCs, whether it's about learning from ecosystem, whether it's about co-creating, it's about inventing, innovation. They cannot live in this remit anymore, right? So I think the leaders have to break those boundaries and say that I want to take a risk. And when you take a risk, there are chances of failure when you're not living by the scope. So I think that's where the change has to happen.
All right, so if we can come into the picture, as now we are talking about the wave of GCCs, it's going to increase day by day. So, as GCC is now mature and gain that strategic power, how should leaders audit their own decision-making maturity?
I think the fundamental aspect, the building block of this, is adaptability and resilience. As a leader, I think the thing that I worry about is, am I building enough agility and adaptability within the organization or helping do that? Secondly, building resilience, because we don't know what's coming at us. And the point, I think you just made this point about control. The sense of control brings about a rigidity aspect to it. And as we all know, the anti-fragility, as they say, is an important aspect, and that's part of resiliency. If you're too rigid and you're very control centric, you're not helping build that adaptability in the organization or the resilience that is required. And the way you do that is by bringing in more people into the remit, and not just by leadership, the next levels of leaders, not necessarily by title, but also by function in terms of what they do, how they do it, and also build this in the middle of the organization, not necessarily just at the top.
All right, thank you. Dheeraj, if you can quickly come into the conversation, how does a real healthy GCC look like? And also, of course, what are those early warning signs that you know that the leadership team is now very overconfident?
Oh, the healthy GCCs today uh, do not call themselves as GCCs. They are another office of the organization. Just they happen to be in India because that's a talent center.
Local headquarters.
Absolutely. And they are the extended arms. They have all the functional capabilities. It is a microcosm of the entire organization reflecting in another country. Right? It's a very rich environment. Now, what organizations want, given what they've invested in India and built this GCC, they want to derive maximum out of it. What we should not fall for is just because we have the strength of numbers, could not start to feel confident. I am leading this GCC or I'm a part of this GCC, which has got thousands of employees. The day you stop adding value, the day you stop reinventing yourself, and the day you fall out of the vision of the organization globally, I think that's the day we would say that we got a little overconfident. I don't see that happen much in India. I think as a country, we are pretty humble and hardworking, and people here are quite adaptable. I think that's one of our strengths, which is why it has worked in our favor. There are multiple GCCs who are 15, 20, 25 years old, and I could very confidently say that they have reinvented themselves every 3 to 4 years.
All right, 3 to 4 years you're talking about, but if we talk about 5 years, Issa, do you think are there any blind spots that we need to address today? So 5 years from now, the picture would be a bit different for GCCs.
See, the thing I think, as Dheeraj pointed out, I think there's reinvention that's happened over time. I've been in this game for 20 years. While a lot of conversation about GCCs has taken stock today, many of us were GCC leaders long before GCCs were very, well known in some sense. So I think the biggest thing, I think, if you look out over the next few years, is the premise around which GCCs got built and scaled. Right? I think it was primarily driven by two things: availability of talent at scale. The world was looking for large pools of talent, and India provided it at a cost point that was quite interesting for them. With the advent of AI, and the premise of AI being that the people, the human and AI interaction will actually lead to a lot more efficiencies. Now, the efficiency will come at the cost of either the number of people that you need or at the cost of cost, right? I mean, cost management across the board. So the premise around which GCCs were built over the last 10, 15, 20 years is going to fundamentally shift as we think about this. And then the question is, what value are you adding in the new paradigm? And those are the things that we need to start thinking about now and putting in play, because you can't do this 5 years from now. You got to start doing it now. And I think that's where consistently, I'm in today's discussions as well as other discussions that are going on, I think all of us are starting to think about the same thing, right? What is the future state around? What's the new value proposition for GCCs as we look ahead?
According to you, sir, what should be those top two priorities of leaders, GCC leaders right now?
Build a much more stronger purpose for their GCCs as another location for the company. But most of us have large locations for the company, right? So, do you play to your weight class within the organization? Which means that, do we understand the fundamentals of our business really well? Are we able to map to it? Not only are we able to, from the past where we used to actually align against it and be able to deliver solutions to it, can we actually lead the reframing of it from a customer context perspective from here, taking into advantage all of the entire value flow of the company that seems to exist in India?
All right, Dheeraj, from your vantage point, what would be those top two priorities of leaders at this point in time?
Oh, I think one I would say is adopting AI or any new technology that comes our way. I think that's certainly going to disrupt us in a big way. Everybody's thinking about it. We are yet to do it at scale, so I think that's priority number one. Second, align with the strategic vision of the organization globally. Again, totally agreeing with what Ram said. We discussed this in our panel in detail, saying you're not a center outside of the organization anymore. There's no question of somebody expecting something from you and you fulfilling that expectation. You're an integral part of that organization. More and more people should have a cross organization view, sitting in GCCs and create impact.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being a part
Thank
of
you.
this
Thanks for having us.
conversation and sharing those insights with us and to our viewers, as we know that future of GCCs, the perfect GCCs aren't built because of just perfect strategies, but they are built by the leaders who are willing to question themselves even before the market forces them to. Right? So thank you so much for joining us for this conversation, to you as well, and stay tuned for many, many more such insightful conversations only at ETGCC.